Hi, my name is Jeremy Holt.
And I'm Ashley Holt.
The two of us, along with Jane Jackson, are this year's annual Budget Drive co-chairs. If you're watching this video, that means you are attending a meal at the home of one of our many generous hosts. Thank you so much for signing up for this event.
In the past, we have used steward visits during the annual budget drive, where stewards came to an individual member's home to discuss the great work of our church and where the church is going next year and the funding necessary to do that. This year, in lieu of those visits, we have arranged these meals hosted by various members where we hope you can learn about the budget and make your pledges in a more communal and social setting, where you'll have those same conversations about the future of our church with members and other friends.
In order to lighten the load of your hosts, we decided to record this video to go over the basics of how the ABD works, the goal of next year's budget set out by the board, and the process for completing your pledge to continue the great work of this church.
UUCSS's fiscal year runs from July 1st to June 30th. This means that before July 1 of each year, the congregation has to vote to adopt a budget for the following 12 months. This year, that vote will take place at the annual congregational meeting on June 10th.
We are the kind of organization that has to balance its budget each and every year. Our expenses can only be as great as our revenues. Almost 3/4 of our revenues come from the annual gifts of church members. So there can't be a final budget until we know what those gifts will be.
So every winter, the board develops a proposed budget reflecting the needs and goals of the church and an estimate of the resources that will be available. You can see a summary of the proposed budget for 2018-19 in the ABD brochure. Your dinner host should have some of those.
Then, every spring, we have the annual budget drive, when we ask each member to make a financial commitment to the church and to the goals that embody our proposed budget. The final budget is then created based on the results of the ABD.
You can see from the way this process works that it's really important for everyone to make their pledges during the time allotted for the budget drive. The very most helpful thing you can do today is fill out your commitment and give it to your host.
The theme of this year's budget drive is renewing our commitment. After the significant budget cuts that were necessary last year, we are asking this year for a 4% overall increase in contributions. If members increase their financial commitments by at least this much, we can have a budget that reflects renewed commitment in 3 critical areas: ministry, religious education, and property.
In the area of ministry, the proposed budget provides for both hiring an interim minister for 1 year and for the expenses associated with searching for a called minister. Coming together for worship on Sunday mornings is central to our church community. A full-time interim minister will lead our worship and perform the other responsibilities of congregational ministry, and will serve as a resource as we continue our journey of transition and healing. Funding the search process is the necessary first step in finding a settled minister who will support us as we seek to implement our vision for this church community and the world.
In the area of religious education, the proposed budget provides a salary increase for the Director of Religious Education. This increase recognizes the outstanding work our new Director of Religious Education has done this year, and also brings her compensation to a level that reflects her credentials as an ordained minister.
Finally, the area of property. Last year, we had to decrease the property budget, which naturally led to deferring some necessary maintenance and upkeep. Probably you have noticed things that are broken or don't work quite right. The proposed budget restores and increases funds for maintaining and caring for our buildings and grounds.
So, what are we asking you to do now? First, it would be good to take this opportunity to share with each other your hopes for this church and perhaps also your intentions for building our faith community and carrying our values out into the world in the coming year.
Then you might want to sit together quietly for a moment, long enough for 3 breaths.
Then, your host will give you your commitment form. If you pledged last year, there will be a form that already has your name and address printed on it. It will show you what you committed to last year. It will also show what your commitment would be at a 4% increase and at a 6% increase.
The overall goal of this budget drive is an average increase of 4% over the 2017-2018 pledges. But we know that there will be some who can't do that because of changing financial circumstances. So, we ask those who can do so to consider increasing their pledge by 6% so that the overall goal can be met.
The pledge form asks you to indicate the manner in which you will be paying. If you are choosing automatic withdrawals for the first time, you also need to fill out an automatic deduction form. Your host has that form. Your host also has the instructions for how to give stocks, securities, and other financial instruments in case you want to do that.
Please be sure to sign and date your commitment form. Then put it back in the envelope and give it to your host.
Well, that's it. At the end of this video, we invite those of you that would like to have that conversation with your host and the other guests to do so. You and the guests next to you are what makes this church the amazing place it is. So your hopes for its future are essential to the direction of the church.
Thanks again for being here and for all you do for our church.
It's just this huge sense of community for me. It has this sort of feeling of warmth you get from it. You can tell everyone really, really cares about everything, about stuff going on here, about stuff going on around the world. Even if I don't talk to a ton of the people here, I feel like they would all talk to me if I wanted it. They're a very friendly community. The youth programs are probably the best I could hope for. There's OWL, which is definitely a novelty among churches, and there's COA, which actually helped me develop my thoughts on life, I guess, even if I didn't express it there. And there's WOW, where everyone really just gets along.
It was, I wanted my children to grow up in a community that had conversations about spirit or spirituality or community. And it was very successful. I thought it was brilliant how my children grew into those conversations as a function of being part of them while they were here.
I grew up in this church, and in a lot of ways I think it helped shape me into the person I am today. I come to church to be spiritually enriched and to feel a part of a loving, caring, and supportive community that share my values. And I feel incredibly grateful to have an opportunity to raise my boys in a church that will teach them UU values and guide and nurture them as it did for me.
I loved it the minute I walked in, and then I decided I really needed the spiritual inspiration to help me be a better person and therefore do my part in making the world a better place. And I like the social action. We used to march all the time, and we're marching again, so that's wonderful to do as a community. And the last thing I didn't think about, I was about 28 when I first came, I didn't think about the support I would need as life gets hard, especially into older age. And so that's what I really love is community, community, community.
The community is good.
Despite my sometimes not wanting to get up in the morning and despite my having other things I could do on a Sunday, I end up coming back here every time because I know that I'm in a place that's committed to real human engagement. So that's why I come.